Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Lovely to have so many people in the gallery. Thank you for making the time to be here. Good afternoon, councillors. Welcome to our council meeting. We're going straight into the public forum. And John Williams, thank you very much for being there virtually. We also had Councillor Packard there virtually as well. John is going to speak on behalf of the Downstream Users Group, speaking for 11.3 Manus Lake Blue-Green Algae Management. John, you've had 5 minutes. You can start.
Right. You can all hear me?
You can.
Yes.
Raise your hand if you can hear me. Very good. Thank you. Well, we're all working on the same deal, aren't we? Trying to get rid of the blue-green algae in the Manus. Now, you've come up with some things like $6 to $9 million for the dam to go and to create a wetlands. That's completely wrong. I'll tell you what I've done. I've done a fair bit of research, and what I've found out is that I've visited the dam with some earth-moving people and an engineer, and the section of wall that we'd have to take out is where the original creek went. It's not a big deal at all. It's actually not a big job. The wetlands, the fellow called Jonathan Howard, and I want you to put Jonathan Howard down and look him up on your Google. You might find a bit about him. He knows everything about water and wetlands. He works with Victorian government fixing up wetlands in Victoria. Now, he assures me that there is state and federal money available to do the job. So what I'm saying to you is, by taking this piece out and creating this wetlands is not a big financial cost to you. In actual fact, nothing like what you're putting up. I've also roughed out something that it should look like if there's a wetlands there. And I don't know if you've had a look at that diagram there, or pass it around, or have a look at it. You still have your camping, swimming, fishing, and bird watching. You've got more there than you've got with the dam as it is at the moment. You can also, as far as tourism goes, it's all better. Better for the locals, better health for everybody. And what I would like to see is the health of the river coming back. And the health of the river will come back if the wetlands is put in and we get rid of the dam as it is, because it's not working for anybody, and the cost of everything is just mounting up. And not only that, the health of people, and believe me, liability is only just around the corner. So I think that we should be working towards getting this fixed, instead of going back, getting whoever to look at it. You're talking about mixers, that didn't work. Now you're talking about putting something else in the water. All this sort of thing. The fisheries, you realise, will have nothing to do with this. There's a book here which I don't know. I think you've got most of this now. If you look through that, when the dam back in 2013, this is an environmental study that was made. Now, everything in there that they said would go wrong has gone wrong. So you can't just deny all this sort of thing. It has to be fixed. And there is only one way to fix it. Take down the dam, create the wetlands, and it'll look after itself. It's a common sense. We don't need professors to tell us that, because it's out there. So all I'm saying to you is, go and do your sums, get some quotes from some real people, fair income, so you can get the thing fixed. That's why I see it, and I don't know. Has anybody got any questions?
Thank you. Thank you very much, John. A question from councillor Sheldon.
John, you mentioned we don't have to spend how much money. Well, you've probably done some further research to how much money you think this might cost council.
At this stage, no, but I've had people look at it and no one wants to name names because what we need is for you to go out and get some decent quotes, and you will find definitely that taking a section of the dam out is not a big deal. The wetlands, Jonathan Howard will put you on the people that you put a rough area in there, and I'll give you a definite quote on what this is going to cost. But you've got to remember that the majority of this is all going to be paid for by government, which happens anyhow, doesn't it? But the state and federal government for wetlands, they will love you for it. So this is the sort of thing we should be doing.
Councillor Sheldon has another question.
Have you had any communication back from the Murray-Darling catchment group? Because they're the ones that talk about how important our waterways are to the Murray-Darling catchment area.
Correct. So why don't we fix it?
No, but have you received any communication from them or any feedback from them?
No. But I know fisheries are not very happy with it, and this book in here says it. If you look through some of the things in here, how that dam ever got through, I don't know. But it needs looking at, and we have legal people looking at it at the moment. So we're not going to stop at this. It has to be fixed.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you for the presentation, John. The query that I have playing devil's advocate is that we all agree that the blue-green algae is a major issue, and we also raise the idea of the fact that it's pretty much a fixed wall against it so that the water can't flow from the top. I think there are pipes underneath that it can come through. But there would be sections of the community who would be reasonably passionate about keeping the dam for the other recreational purposes that they see. And I suppose that from a council perspective, there needs to be that broad consultation to understand all the comments from all sections of the community that are as passionate about it. We fully understand the concerns and agree with the concerns about the blue-green algae. We just need to understand that the impact on removing the dam and how that flow on would be accepted within the rest of the broader community that accesses that Manus Dam.
Correct. And that is why a wetland will give them everything except a boat. They've still got their fishing, their swimming, they've got everything. And there's not a person with the credentials of Jonathan Howard. They will all tell you the same thing. If you want your waterway cleaned up, you need wetlands and let the water flow. It's as simple as that.
Thank you, councillors. Any other questions? Thank you, John, for making the time. We will be moving your report up in the meeting. Well, we may. So if you want to stay online, well, you can watch it remotely anytime. And I think our next speaker is Lee McCall. Is Lee here?
Please there.
Thank you. We'll move on to our next speaker, Alan Tonkin. Thank you, Alan. Alan's part of the Richmond Park Action Group, speaking against 11.4 council managed Crown land plan of management, Richmond Park at Stockwell Gardens for adoption. 11.4.
Yes,
Good stuff. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, councillors and staff. My name is Alan Tonkin and I'm speaking on behalf of the Richmond Park Action Group. I'm here to respectfully request that council does not adopt the draft plan of management for Richmond Park and Stockwell Gardens under agenda item 11.4. Instead, that you defer the decision until proper governance processes have been followed. As many of you know, Richmond Park has been a public parkland since 1887. And what's proposed through this recategorisation is not just administrative. It's a fundamental change that will legally enable the development of a large-scale multi-purpose centre on public green space in the heart of the Tumut community, ultimately changing the amenity of the site forever. What I wish to raise today are two critical governance issues. First, under the Crown Land Management Act of 2016, Government Council is required, as the Crown Lands Manager, to assess whether the proposed changes would cause material harm to the park's existing uses and values and impact the surrounding areas. While Crown Lands have conducted their own assessment, Council itself has not produced or published its own written material harm assessment, as required under the Crown Lands Management Act of 2016. This is not a technicality. The legislation makes it clear that the responsibility lies with Council, not just Crown Land. Proceeding without this assessment will risk invalidating the entire process and undermining community trust. Of the 25 submissions received for the POM, 18 were against the proposed change, citing a string of harmful changes. Second, and more seriously, there has been no conflict of interest policy adopted by Council in connection with development. I bring your attention to the handout. Point 1 of that handout says that Council must have a policy. Council is both the applicant, the land manager, and the consenting authority. Proposing a major development, managing the land it sits on, and now voting on the very mechanism that allows it to proceed. Under the Environmental Planning and Assessment Conflict of Interest Regulation 2022, which came into force in April 2023, councillors in this position are required to adopt a clear policy outlining how these interests will be managed transparently, even though the Southern Region Planning Panel are the determining authority. To date, no such policy has been made available to the public. This is a significant oversight. Without it, the process lacks probity safeguards. It opens the door to the perception or even the risks of bias, procedural unfairness, and regulatory non-compliance. As councillors, you each carry responsibility to uphold proper process. This is not just about the merits of the facility. It's about how we get there. If we are making irreversible changes to long-held public land, it must be done with the highest levels of transparency, consultation, and legislative compliance. On behalf of the Richmond Park Action Group, I would urge Council to amend the motion for 11.4 as follows. Defer the adoption of the plan of management, prepare and publish a written material harm assessment, adopt a formal conflict policy, and only proceed once these steps are complete and the community has proper opportunity to respond. We from Richmond Park Action Group are really concerned that councillors are being pressured to support the recategorisation of Crown Land and all the other steps to build met purely based on the implied threat of losing the blur funding. You're sacrificing due diligence, best practice guidelines, and good governance. We stress again, we are not against facility. It is the wrong site. I urge you to read the handout on conflict of interest. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan. Councillors, any questions?
Yes, Alan, your additions to the,
The handout.
no, what you read.
The amendment?
Amendment. Well, it's not an amendment,
well,
it's an addition.
Well, it's amending the motion.
Have we seen that? Was that just for you?
That's
Just
basically
read that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, to defer,
defer the adoption plan.
Yeah.
Prepare and publish a written material harm assessment and adopt a formal conflict of interest policy. That shouldn't be too hard to do.
Well, it'd be easier if you actually gave them to us.
We just,
You've given us this. But
no,
not
no,
that.
no. I don't think you understand.
I'm sure I understand.
Someone
so
Someone
you
within
would like
council has to
move.
address these matters.
Which council has it addressed that?
Yeah, so we've written that down.
I think councillor Hayes is referring to the draft amendment. So,
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was our
Well,
place to provide.
but you gave us all the other stuff.
Okay, I'll leave you with,
Thank you.
I think I'll leave you with a copy of the,
Thank you. Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, and now we have our third speaker today, Kristen Fermi, speaking for 11.4, Council Managed Crown Land Plan of Management, Park and Stockwell Gardens for adoption. Speaking for.
Chair, councillors, thank you for the opportunity to speak today in support of item 11.4, the adoption of the council managed Crown Land Plan of Management for Richmond Park and Stockwell Gardens. Many of you would already know me, but for those who don't, my name is Kristen Toomey and I come here today as a community member offering my strong support for council proceeding with the adoption of this plan, but also to provide balance to the broader conversation about Richmond Park, its management, its future use and the MEC project. In the lead up to today's council meeting, a letter from the Richmond Park Action Group was circulated through print media, raising alarm over the proposed recategorisation of a portion of Richmond Park to enable the MEC to proceed. Whilst community discussion is important, it's equally important that this discussion is grounded in facts and not fear. Some commentary has moved into territory that undermines constructive community dialogue. If we define gaslighting in a broader sense as intentionally presenting misleading information to manipulate public perception and sow distrust, then it's fair to say that some of the commentary used by the Richmond Park Action Group in the lead up to today's meeting verges on this definition. Their communications have used emotionally charged language such as once it's gone, we don't get it back, to instill fear and encouraging people to attend today's meeting in protest. They have continually ignored factual clarifications made through due process. This narrative misleads the public and undermines confidence in legitimate democratic and planning processes. So let's be clear on what's actually proposed. The reclassification affects a small portion of Richmond Park, specifically the disused former bowling green, and the resulting MEC will occupy less than 1/3 of the total park area. Heritage and memorial concerns have been formally addressed. Tumut RSL sub-branch representatives were consulted directly and confirmed the MEC will not impact war memorials in the park, and they are happy for the project to proceed. Noise and traffic impacts have been professionally addressed and detailed mitigation plans in place to ensure minimal disruption and preservation of surrounding residential amenity. Extensive community consultation has occurred both online and in person with professional planners, architects and council officers, making changes to design in response to feedback. No part of the park is being removed from public use. In fact, the design enhances public use by adding infrastructure that will support sporting events, community activities, and more importantly, emergency response capabilities. We are all fully aware that a business case will follow the approval of the DA, a standard practice for grant-funded capital projects. And oversight is already in place through a project control group that includes council, public works and funding body representatives. Council has instigated responsible governance and a transparent process. This plan underwent public exhibition and council received 25 submissions. Of the 25 submissions received, 18 were objections and 7 were in support. Some may argue that this indicates majority opposition within the community, but that narrative does not reflect the full picture nor the broader scope of support for the MEC project. As noted in the council business paper of 21 November 2024, and I quote, "The project has broad support within the SVC local community. SVC recently received a submission from the members of the Community Working Group, which notes that in excess of 5,000 people support the project. 32 letters of support were provided to SVC from sporting organisations, businesses, community groups and schools." End quote. This demonstrates that beyond the formal submission process, there is a strong and diverse groundswell of support across the community for the project. What is unfortunate is that at this time, we do not have the submission figures associated with the MECDA exhibition period, which was handled by the Southern Regional Planning Panel and being conducted at the same time as this plan's public exhibition period. I, like many here, wait with bated breath for those numbers to be made available to us for that stage of the project to commence. The adoption of the plan of management for Richmond Park is not about removing parkland. It's about activating a disused area for the benefit of the entire community. The adoption of this plan today is the next step in the MEC project, and I urge Council to adopt the plan of management and put our community one step closer to achieving this vital asset and continue delivering infrastructure that reflects the real needs and shared values of the SVC community. Thank you.
Thanks, Kristen. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Cross.
Thank you, Chris. You've heard what Alan Tonkin said to us about our statutory obligations. Do you agree that it's important that council dots its I's and crosses its T's by ensuring that we do comply with our statutory obligations?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Councillor.
And if we need time to do that, we should do that. Do you agree?
Absolutely, Councillor Inglis. I don't doubt that. But I would believe that the Crown Land would not have allowed this process to get to this point unless due process had been taken. I would find that extremely
Have you
rare.
dealt with Crown Lands before?
Yes, I have. So yes, I do understand the process, but the fact that we are at this point now with this plan in here to be adopted today would signify that that due diligence has been done by council. And I would be vastly surprised if that had not already been done.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Thompson.
3 years ago in January, the then council actually tried to understand how all of this was going on. And we're now at Richmond Park due to a series of poor decision making that has been happening along the way. And yeah, the question is that the comments that you made about the presentation from Alan Tonkin today and the letter in the media, do you accept also that from the other perspective and those people in favour of the project that there has been equal amount of, we would have had 10 times more emails previously for the project than the ones that we've received now. So do you appreciate that maybe the residents who are going to be impacted mainly, and also the people who are very passionate about what Richmond Park represents to this community, have the right to actually speak out and trying to defend what they're trying to defend?
I don't doubt that at all.
Without gaslighting?
I don't doubt that at all, Councillor Thompson. And as part of the democratic process, that has been afforded to them. And reviews of the plan have been undertaken, mitigations have been put in place, consultation has been extensive. So I think that they have been afforded that opportunity and council has worked to mitigate those issues. However, the wording of some of the narrative that is going on in the community is not factual. And what's unfortunate is that has been allowed to get away, and that has become fact when it's not.
In your opinion. Any other questions, councillor?
Yeah, I am surprised. Are you surprised that when you look at normal developments and all the rest of it, and this is just to get a personal feeling that it's taken so long for the Crown Lands plan of management to be put forward, which should have come forward earlier?
I can't speak to that because I haven't been involved in that process. So I can't speak to the timeliness of how that has come to this point, unfortunately. I think that would be a better question for a council officer to answer.
Thank you, Kristen. Any other questions, councillors? Kristen, thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
So we'll now start with the council meeting. We'll start with acknowledgement of country. Snorri Valleys Council proudly acknowledges the traditional owners and custodians of this land and water and pay respects to their elders past and present. This meeting today is being live streamed on council's website to allow the community to follow council debates and decisions. Members of the public participating in the meeting agree to have their image, voice and personal information, including name and address, recorded and publicly broadcast. Snowy Valleys Council does not accept liability for any defamatory remarks or inappropriate comments that may be made during the course of the meeting. Any part of the meeting that is held in closed session will not be streamed. Councillors are reminded of the oath or affirmation of office they made under section 233A of the Local Government Act 1993 and the obligation of the council's code of conduct to disclose and appropriate manage conflicts of interest. Please ensure that mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off or on silent mode for the duration of the meeting, and no recording of voice or images is permitted from the mobile phone or other electronic devices while in the room. In the event of an emergency, please evacuate the building using the nearest exit and follow the instructions given by the warden. Do not use the lift. If participating in the meeting from an alternate venue, Councillor Packer, please enact the evacuation plan for that location if required. Thank you. Number 3, apologies, leave of absence and remote attendance. We have one request for remote attendance from Councillor Packard, who is unable to attend today for family reasons. Do I move that, Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Works? All in favour? Declarations of pecuniary interest and conflict of interest. Councillors are required to declare any direct or indirect pecuniary interest or conflicts of interest in any matters being considered by council. Confirmations of minutes 5.1. The minutes from ordinary council the 17th of April 2025. There's one recommendation there that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 20th of March be received, held on the 17th of April, be received and confirmed as an accurate report. Councillor Sheldon. Councillor Worth. Nothing to say, Councillor Sheldon. All those in favour? We have no correspondence or petition table.
Madam Mayor, at this point, I'd like to move that we bring reports 11.1, 11.3 and 11.4 forward into the meeting so that those people will have the time to come and do the public forum and in the meeting today. Don't have to sit through the whole thing. So I'd like to move that we bring reports 11.1 on page 60, on page 54, 11.3 on page 65 and 11.4 on page 73 forward into the meeting.
Thank you. And now let's come seconded by Councillor Sheldon. All those in favour? Wait for those actually. So the first one we're going to councillors. No.
Page 54.
Off to page 54. The 11.1 multi-purpose and evacuation centre project update. Two recommendations there, moved by Councillor Sheldon. Seconded by Councillor Hayes. Councillor Sheldon.
Yes, look, Madam Mayor, I'd like to speak to this. Times have changed and, evolution's there. But looking at this project from the onset, it feels like a millennium ago, to be quite honest with you, but the goalposts have moved. Council, from what I've witnessed of being a council, we are starting to pit community against community, which is unfortunate. But when it first came to my attention as a councillor, I questioned firstly vocation, secondly the finances, and council's capacity to handle the outgoing business plan. 7 months later, and these concerns have not been addressed. So it has been a real red flag to me. Councillors were then informed we had to start work by the 30th of June this year. Otherwise, we'd have to give the money back. At that stage, no real community consultation had occurred that I witnessed. And when the community site consultation occurred, there was a whiplash. Still no business plan and costings. Then the plan of management and land usage with Crown Land popped up. Then we were informed it is out of council's hands and lays with the Southern Regional Planning Panel. We are now informed council has an extension to June 2026. What happened to June 2025? Who had the rush of blood? Now in these papers, it appears it's not so. And we are tasked to adopting a site-specific council managed Crown lands for Richmond Park and Stockwell Gardens, which
But
creates.
this is, sorry, are you talking about
Yes, I am.
one?
One,
Okay. Not four?
no, 11.1. Although public submissions for the DA were 60-40, it is virtually opposite the POM, 60-40 the other way. I, along with other councillors, understand certain elements. So in closing, Madam Mayor, could you please clarify, are we being asked to adopt the POM for the land management after council has spent hundreds and thousands of dollars without Crown Land's permission or approval, without a business plan, without any expression of interest, without any real knowledge of the cost involved, except for a $13 million grant? To me, this project demonstrates how council has placed the cart before the horse.
I'm up to continue.
Councillor Sheldon, so there are a lot of questions there. So to address the first one, which is about the POM. So essentially all council is doing is there is a current section of Richmond Park, which is the existing Golden Green. That is categorised as general community use. The rest of it is up. So all council is doing is extending that categorisation to the end of Richmond Street, where the MPC will be built. Because that's been a resolution of council to continue with the project. So that's all council is doing here today, is adopting the POM, and I can talk about conflicts of interest and harm later if you like, when we get to that meeting. In terms of the business plan, I think that was another question of yours. As stated in the report, council is creating a business plan in consultation with key user groups. We already have a draft plan with income expenditure as a scenario if council was to run it. We've also had interest from community groups in managing the facility, and as expected, to go to a council workshop next month, where we will run through those scenarios. So that is well.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just would like to ask the Director of Infrastructure and Works a question in regards to the tender award. There was an extraordinary meeting proposed for the 31st of July. Given the delays of the Southern Regional Planning have been pushed back by a month, how much time will there be for that tender to go out to tender and get those tenders back? Will it be a significant amount of time, or will it be rushed?
For you, Madam Mayor, to councillor words, generally we're allowing 4 weeks for the tender period, so that chunk of time is adequate for tenders to develop. So why we put that recommendation in the report is, in case we do get a decision from the Southern Regional Planning Panel to proceed, we can then very quickly bring the tender report to council to keep the project on track, because they'll be running concurrently.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to move that we go into meeting for the purpose of discussion. So councillor Sheldon speaks closes today. That we're going to committee.
Do you have a second? Second. Councillor Thompson and Councillor Harvey. Councillor Thompson. Councillor? Councillor Dozer. Oh, all in favour? So, we're in. Thank you. Okay. Councillor.
So Richmond Park is an area of about 4 acres. It's in 2 categories. One category is in old bowling green or tennis courts or whatever. And then the rest is parkland. All this is proposing to do is to extend that
across the bottom, Russell Street. So it's about another 3/4 of an acre in that second category. So Richmond Park will still be in 2 categories. The majority of it, I think it's 78%. 72% is still parkland. If that sort of makes it a little bit easier for more visual people.
The issue is extremely complicated, and having spoken with Hume Link and Transcript yesterday, this is such a similar situation in that everything that we're doing is reactive. We have not strategically planned ahead and thought ahead and worked backwards to achieve the outcome. So everything that we're doing, including this changing, this plan of management, is a reactive situation to enable us to build the neck there, because it came down to a default situation. When the design was originally put, correct me if I'm wrong, there were actually 4 courts watered. So by placing this here now, and this is the beauty of hindsight, by placing it here, we allow absolutely no opportunity for that facility to actually expand in any way, unless we completely destroy the amenity and the urbanisation and the residents' experiences, and we take over more land in the park, which obviously, if we've done it this time, we can just apply for another little POM later and keep taking sections of the land. So the concern that I have is that years ago, when this was initially put, the Basketball Association didn't come and ask council to build it. They actually wanted council to provide a greenfield site for them to be able to apply for grants and build it themselves. And at the time, I think I may have even said something along the lines of, be careful if council gets involved because it becomes really complicated. I'm not saying what is the obvious thing. The concern I have is that if 2 courts is not going to be enough, and there's that want for further development. If the initial project had been looked at areas like down at the railway precinct, which we could have applied for, and I'm sure after 3 years we probably have an answer. If the area is down there on a flat site, geotech wouldn't have been an issue, parking wouldn't have been an issue, expansion wouldn't have been the issue. Because where it's going now, this is it. And it's created so much angst as councillors, the community against we have been the subject of some fairly intense lobbying, and not all of it has been polite. And let me tell you, there's been on various areas as well. So it's not an easy thing. But we are here to make the right decisions, and I think I actually pointed it out. It's not just about the project, it's about the process as well. So this facility has no opportunity whatsoever to expand or grow. We cannot increase the parking, we cannot do anything. And even now what we're doing is that we're impacting on the amenity of the people who are there. Richmond Park has had so little love done to it that none of the trees that have been removed have been replaced. And yet here we are going to take out the little bit of colour and light in our park, and we're known for our deciduous colour. So I've got very real concerns that, apart from anything, this location does not allow for expansion in any way. And again, this location came down to a Holy Mary class of, well, it's this or nothing. We weren't really given much option. We all believed it was going into Lockridge Park. We were led to believe that that's where it would go, and we were comfortable with that. And I don't think many of us were really comfortable with the alternative going into Richmond Park. But here we are. But it's about being reactive, not being proactive, and not strategically planning big picture. We're trying to fit something into an area that it's just not going to fit.
Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, we've been saddled with this decision now as a newly elected councillor, and it's taken a little bit for me to get my head around this. I was actually employed through council back in 2019 to work on its advocacy plan to create videos, and I interviewed a gentleman there at the front of the current basketball stadium talking about the need for a new basketball stadium there. That was 2019. So I believe we have looked we had wanted this facility for a while. We then had the devastation of the 2019-2020 bushfires, and we have had the opportunity to apply for the grant. I do believe that we could have, again, hindsight is 2020, and could have looked for multiple different locations and had the ability to expand in the future, but this is what we've been saddled with now. We have the opportunity to build a multi-purpose centre for the safety of the area, for the safety of Snowy Valleys as a whole, and for the youth that'll use it in its multitude of functions that it could possibly be. I had a tour of the current facility only a few days ago. I spoke to parents of the current facility that's going to be used for basketball, and obviously it's going to have 2 basketball courts. I see the struggles that they're having, and in the process of the struggles that they're having, are also achieving such amazing things across the state and across the country in basketball and sports. Now, we have the opportunity to build a facility to promote sports in the area in a time where people are spending more and more time on the internet and on their phones, and we have a beautiful area. Yes, we will lose a little bit of parkland. 28% of the park total will be lost to build a massive, amazing bit of infrastructure for the area that is going to be used so much more than what the current park is getting used for.
Thank you. The General Manager?
Just to clarify, councillors, council has been looking at alternative sites ever since 2022. So a comprehensive report was provided to council listing that 15 different sites. And since then, obviously other sites have been looked into more in depth as well. So it has been going on for a while, and multiple sites have been looked at, and council resolved unanimously last year to support the Richmond. I just want to clarify that due diligence has been done.
While that due diligence is happening, has any of those areas been shown to be more benefit than the current site?
No, so this is what I wrote.
Councillor Edwards,
I think we're a little bit off point there.
I think we're covering 2 points.
I understand. Look, I'm a bit concerned with the matters raised by Mr. Tonkin in his address.
Shall we talk about that when we get to?
No, I want to ask this question,
Sure.
and that is, are the staff able to give councillors the assurance that we have, or they have, on our behalf, complied with all statutory obligations?
General Manager?
Yes, Madam Mayor, Councillor Inglis. So there's 2 points that's been raised by the Richmond Park Action Group, and council has clarified our position multiple times with them as well. So on the first one about the material harm as such, so council has to justify when it recategorises a parcel of land, we have to say why we are doing that. And when we do that, we have to consider material harm. And council has done that in its application to Crown Lands, and that has been accepted by Crown Lands. So we have done that as part of the process. In terms of conflicts of interest, as I said, this has been communicated with the group multiple times. So under clause 66A of the Environmental Planning Assessment Regulation, this has been considered by council but does not apply in this circumstance. Particularly, a council-related against development application must not be determined by the consent authority unless. So council, being the consent authority, is not the determining authority. So the Southern Region Planning Panel is. So if you've got like a DA that is not referred to the panel or another decision-making power, then council must have a conflict of interest, obviously, in accordance with section 1A, and that's what I just read. So that doesn't apply to us, but what we've done instead is we have adopted a probity plan and a probity statement in addition. So that has been.
I'd like to put on record, Madam Mayor, that I doubt that there has been compliance. I'm concerned that there has been poor compliance, and I don't believe that the response in the application by one of the staff members involved, I won't name, who completed the document, does deal with that issue in the required way. But I accept the assurance that we're given by the General Manager. Now, moving on, it seems to me, firstly, I echo the comments made by councillor Sheldon about a situation which I personally regard as deplorable, that we don't have a business plan, which is so important to the success or otherwise of this project. And we were told that the DA, if approved, we don't know whether it's approved as yet or not, but the tenders would follow the DA if approved, but only after the business plan was adopted by council. It now seems that we're preparing for tender. We haven't even seen the bid.
Could I have the acting general manager speak to that?
Yes, please.
There is some good news there.
Yes, so just for clarification, the council has prepared a base model business plan.
We haven't seen.
So as I previously stated, that is coming to a workshop next month with councillors to run through the scenarios, and then it will go to the June meeting. We were always aiming for June for that.
Well, thank you for raising that, because I note in the report that Mr. Hare, the consultant, has been retained to prepare various models. Now, in my opinion, those models should be continued, given the amount of community interest in this project, that those models should be considered in public meeting, not in a workshop, so that we have a fully transparent consideration of this project, that all members of the community, whatever side they might be on, can consider and understand the reasoning and the rationale of the council in adopting one or other of the models. If that in fact happens, it seems to me that there's no point, unless we're under a time constraint, to accept the change to accept the change to the POM today, because we don't know what the result of the DA is. We don't know what the business plan is, unless there's some constraint time-wise. Why can't that be left until after we have the development application approved and the business plan? Because in the event that the project falls over at one of those hurdles, we'll be stuck with a POM that we've already amended we don't need.
Thank you,
So-
councillor.
What's the point?
So the point is council's legally required to have a POM, and it's all hand in hand. The land needs to be the right category to accommodate the development application. There's no point doing it after, because that's something that the panel would look at as well. It's like, well, is the land of the right sization to facilitate this development? So it's all part of the same process.
Well, it's been approved by, all we have to do is adopt it. And if we adopt it, we've adopted with the
What's the matter when?
in futurity.
Any other, let's see, we're still in committee.
It's terribly frustrating from where I'm sitting. People out here have been coming to council for coming to council for 30 years asking for something like this. The serendipitous result of the fires, the blurst funding, was great. But it's so frustrating to sit here 5 years after the fire and the shovel's not gone on the ground. That really drives me mad. This classification of categorisation will probably suit the playground anyway, so I can't see a problem. So it is a playground, it would fall under that categorisation, I'd imagine. So I can't see any reason to delay it.
But this one's about noting the,
So this is just the
This is
progress
just-
update. It's just the progress update.
Right.
Just
I
noting
know
progress.
that we're merging the two.
So, yeah, so the other thing is the business case. Now, don't expect anything the council does that'll make money, because we don't make money on most of it. And that's why people pay rates and we get grants from the government. If we're fair income about business cases, we do one on swimming pools. $123 per person to go to the Kincaid swimming pool. Per entry. 85 for Battler. Every time someone goes, it costs us $85. Sure, we get $4 from them. But if we're fair income about that, we address those. I don't expect this to make money, but I do expect it to support the community. That's why we applied for it. We were fortunate to get it. It wasn't my preferred location, but it is the location there. So let's move on.
Councillor Sheldon?
I think Councillor Hayes hit the nail on the head about supporting the whole community. That's the word, supporting the community. It's the whole community that we have to support. Now, council have to get this right. I'm the first one to put up my hand about my financial concerns. If they tick a box, that's fine. Other people can have other arguments, but we have got to look at supporting the whole community. Everyone involved, not just a certain segment, and we have to be financially prudent in our movement forward because everyone knows what a financial tightrope we're on. And this is going to make, because of the impact or the possible financial impacts this project has, we have to get it right. Now, Councillor Hayes is right. The people from the Basketball Association has been coming for 5 years. Unfortunately, and I apologise to them, it's not this current council. This current council wants to get this project done one way or the other, but we want to get it done correctly. It might hurt some, it might not, but if we're going to do it, we've got to tick every box and not leave ourselves open, that we're supporting everyone in the community. And that's what this is about, social justice, right the way across the community.
Councillor Martin?
Well, I agree with Councillor Hayes. It's been a long road to here, and I think you'll recall, Madam Mayor, that it was on the previous council under Councillor Hayes and yourself and myself that the bull paddock was ready to go, and then the new council came in and we got an engineering report that said there was a bit more money needed to do some works, and the panic button's hit. And some councillors didn't want to commit to the extra money because of the depreciation and the triple bottom lines and all this nonsense. And at the end of the day, there's schools in Sydney that have got better facilities than what we've got here. Much better. Look at some of these private schools. All we're asking for is an evacuation centre with some sporting facilities. I agree with Councillor Hayes, it's in the wrong spot. But that wasn't our decision ultimately. Certainly not mine. I prefer it to be back at the bull paddock. And, I think the state government's got a bit to answer for here because, we're operating under duress. I mean, if they really want this project to be done properly and done right, it should be put back where it was originally and funded properly. Instead of, wanting to fund $4 million hangars out at the airport to store some clothing in. They got money for all this other crap, but they don't want to give us the right amount of money to get the projects right here. And the long-term issues will be there forever. I mean, these things can never be cost recovered. I mean, these regional councils are running at a loss everywhere because they're not funded properly. You can't just run the council on the rates with an outgoings for the staff that's greater than the incoming rates. I mean, so how can you be viable? I mean, it's all right at Mossman. It's all right for, Premier Minns to say what's going on down at Cogra. But I mean, we're in Tumut. And if they want people to come to the country and be viable and have good lives in the country and diversify from the city and have good economic activity here and support businesses like Visy and Snowy Hydro and all the local businesses here with staff, then you have to have good education, you have to have good facilities, and you have to have good hospitals. We've got a good airport. We're halfway there. So, I mean, I'm not going to get in the road of it, but I think it's, we're ending up with an inferior product. We should have been
we should have been championing, to do it properly. We could have had the Warby boat. We could have had a wedding function centre. We could have had anything out there. But no, we just got to go back and have this little tin shed in the middle of Richmond Park. It's ridiculous.
Say something, councillor Lewis.
Now it's just, I'd like to agree with, councillor Barter there, if he was saying that we need good facilities. We need good facilities. And I think that Tumut and Snowy Valley's community deserves good facilities. This is a once in a generation opportunity to build a basketball stadium, evacuation centre, and MBC multi-purpose centre, whatever you want to call it. And you're right, it is in the wrong spot, but every spot's going to have a positive and negative. This was the second option. First option was Lockbridge Park. Unfortunately, we couldn't build it there. And I think this is just the next step in the road. I think we have to have community consultation. I believe the council is doing their best to involve the community and take them on the journey. Take David Sheldon's catchphrase, take them on the journey. I think it's important as well. But I believe that this will be a benefit to all of the citizens of this area. So I think I'm going to vote yes.
Would you like to vote to go out of committee?
I would like to vote to go out of committee.
Councillor Hardwick, voting yes, and seconded by councillor Wood. Going out of committee. Okay, councillor Sheldon, are you happy to close the debate? Oh, sorry, everyone happy to go out of committee, all those in favour? Thank you, councillor. No, you haven't yet. No, you haven't. You're welcome.
Having listened to the discussion around the table, nobody disagrees if we had unlimited funding, that it would be absolutely brilliant, and we would build a forecourt and we would really care about our kids. We all know that pools lose money hand over fist, but that doesn't mean that everything else that we're doing should also be allowed to lose money hand over. We need to understand what the financial impact is. If this council needs to go to our community and ask for yet another special rate variation, we need to be able to explain to them where that money's going and why we need it. And so just like we spend over $1.6 million a year on pools for a limited number of people in our community who truly access them, we need to be incredibly mindful that the money that we will spend on this, without even understanding what it's going to cost our community, and without understanding what that flow on special rate variation is, not only to the people who want to enjoy basketball, and we had children who were in representative basketball, we had children in representative netball, we had children in representative swimming. But we should be expecting that we're also taking into consideration the pensioners in our community, single income families who are struggling to keep their home. And our rates, we talk about paying rates, your rates are about $2,500 to $3,000 a year for your general rate. You can only spend each one of those dollars once. And that, apart from the waste and the sewage, everything else comes out of the other bucket of money. We need to be incredibly prudent with what we're spending our money, and we need to understand how much money we're going to be spending. It's not about refusing the project, it's about making the process right and understanding fully how much it's going to cost. Not council, but we only get our money because of our ratepayers and grants. We need to understand what that cost is to members of the community. Anyone, Paul?
I'd like to speak for it, Madam Mayor. I think it's a fantastic facility, and touching on an SRV, I would sooner see us say no to an SRV than continue putting more and more costs onto our ratepayers. I would sooner see this council go into administration there, because the more debt that we end up in, eventually the government's going to hand us out in some way, shape, or form. And I do believe that the federal and state government need to own up and give regional councils the financial assistance grants required to run efficiently and effectively and without putting the cost on the ratepayer. So while saying that the cost is going to eventually be put on the ratepayers for this facility, I think the cost to kids and young people and parents constantly ongoing who want to use this facility, and the cost that we'll have in an emergency when we need this when we have another event like 2019, 2020, when you have thousands of people packed into the boys club, that is when we'll see the benefit of this facility. That's when it'll pay itself off hand over.
Anyone, councillor Sheldon, would you like to first?
I'd like to speak.
Sorry. Go ahead, someone again.
Well, just for clarification, just to remind councillor, just the resolution is just to note the report and to hold it.
I'll close or councillor Hayes want to say something?
Thank you. Look, I don't think we can afford not to have this. Like, look, I stood up on the stage in the boys' club and it was standing room only. They were spilling out onto the streets. And it was a terrible time. Terrible time. And then later we used that facility to send food and clothing and it was inadequate, but we used it. We really need this facility for emergencies, but we also need it for our community. Our community is crying out for something. Councillor Lard said, any fancy boarding school on the North Shore's got 4 times this and an indoor swimming pool. And we don't. We deserve this. We deserve this. We will find ways to pay for it. And I'm sure that later on in this business paper, there is a saving, a couple of $100,000. So I think that we just cannot afford to let this opportunity.
Thank you, councillor Hayes. I did propose the vote.
I'd like to thank everyone for their input because it's been fantastic. But there's one thing a lot of people have hedged on. They're accepting second bet. It's not the right location. We've heard that. I don't want second best for the Basketball Association and I don't want second best for the community at large. If we're going to do something, let's do it properly, as councillor Larder said, and put together a facility that is going to be A1, not a second rate in the wrong location.
Councillor, we have 2 recommendations there. Those in favour? In favour, we've got councillor Hayes, councillor Larter, councillor Packard, councillor Hardwick. That's her words. Councillor Sheldon. Councillor Hay. We've got you, councillor Packard. Thank you. And against councillor Thompson. Oh, and councillor Inglis. Thank you, councillor. Thank you very much. Okay, and now we'll go to 11.4. Oh, we're going to do 11.3, the minutes on delivery now being managed.
The next 2, 11.3.
That's how councillor Thompson moved it, and if someone wants to move it. So 11.3, Manus Lake Blue Green Algae Management. The recommendation that council, there's 4 recommendations there.
That's the handle. 1.
Councillor Hayes, thank you.
Well,
Seconded by councillor Larder. Would you like to discuss that recommendation?
I got moving it.
Let's move it. Yeah, councillor Larder
Seconded.
seconded it. So that starts the discussion.
Yes, I think we should know that. I think we've thrown so much money at this, it's just ridiculous. No one knows how to cure blue-green algae. Probably the answer is to get rid of the dam, turn it back into a wetland. But we don't have the funds for that. That's what I'd like to see us investigate rather than spend more money. And we've spent a substantial amount of money and employed a large amount of experts and consultants on this job, as have Griffith Council, Walgett Council, and numerous other. Flying back from Sydney a while ago, looking over Burrinjuck, the green algae, you know. So no one else can cure it. What makes us think we're so good? We can't cure it.
Does anyone want to say anything about noting the report on Manus Lake Blueprint Album? So we're discussing. Councillor.
Madam Mayor, the concern I have is that to note the report and do nothing else means that we're literally just saying we're not going to do anything else. We need an alternative as to what we're going to do if we're not providing the funding or getting a report from somebody who may know better. Even if it's in relation to approach some of the water authorities and to discuss the issue, or encourage or invite someone down to actually clear the dam themselves. But I think just to note the report really doesn't achieve, and we did listen to Mr. Williams speak very passionately previously. So there does need to be another point in there as to what we do from this point. Noting the report does not resolve the issue. Councillor Sheldon.
I would note, I do note the report, but I follow along Councillor Hayes's thing saying, really, and it's the CSIRO and there's the Murray-Darling Basin that could probably help us and really return the dam back to the wetland. Really, you know, it's going to be a long-term process, but get it back to becoming the wetland, because they've done studies around the area of how healthy returning dams and that to wetlands, how good they are for the environment. So we'll go out to the public, but really the CSIRO with their scientific research can help us, and the Murray-Darling Catchment Group Authority should put up their hand and jump in and assist us also.
That's a lot.
Well, if councillor Hayes is happy, I'd be happy to move that we change the recommendation to incorporate a second point to investigate returning the Manus Lake to wetland.
Are you happy with that, councillor Hayes? So to add a second point to number 1, note the report on Manus Lake Blue Albion Management, and number 2. Investigate returning the lake to the dam.
Could the wording be investigate the feasibility?
Investigate the feasibility of returning to wet. Investigate the feasibility of the dam being changed to wet.
Just to clarify, by looking at that, is your intention to remove the dam or are you saying part of the dam would be wetlands?
Well, remove it so you solve the problem.
Well, I think it's the feasibility of returning it.
Could be anything,
whatever.
In whole or in part.
Yeah,
According to Mr. Williams, in part.
We're no experts, we don't know.
No, absolutely.
So that's why we have to
Whatever's
investigate.
needed.
Councillor Packard, you're on.
The reason I put feasibility in there is we've had a figure of 9 million or so, and then we've also had the person who presented today saying it just needs a bulldozer and it'll cost almost nothing. So we clearly need to work at the truth probably lies somewhere in between those two. So we do need to get somebody other than one of those two to tell us, can it be done? Because obviously it's not feasible for us to spend $9 million. We don't have it. But nor can we just go and pull a dam wall down with the D9.
So I'm thinking, Councillor Packard, whether we should look at point 4 as well, so, which says engage a consultant.
Yeah, clearly we don't have the expertise to say, can it be done and how can it be done? We need to get somebody to tell us, whether it's a CSIRO or a consultant.
I don't think you need, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Councillor Hardwick and then Director of Infrastructure. I'd like to speak.
I want to make sure that we are also noting to do a lot of community consultation, consulting as well, consulting with the community at large, just make sure that in the report or however we do it, that we let the public of Tumbarump know that we're potentially removing their recreational space, but with good reason.
Short motion will wake them up.
Director of Infrastructure.
Neil Hamill. Sorry, through you, Mayor. Sorry, if we could just go to Kristen. I probably should be engage a consultant to investigate the facility because we can't do that ourselves. So that's taking on point number 4 of the recommendation.
Could we maybe just tidy that up a bit so we don't necessarily spend money? I mean, we might be able to get state water or someone involved, less costly to us.
I think that suits me.
So we'll look at ways to investigate.
Investigating feasibility covers it all. I'm happy with that.
We may not necessarily need a consultant,
No.
just an earth moving contractor or something.
2010, we have.
Okay, councillor. Okay, we have 2 recommendations up there, councillor. Councillor Hay, do you want to start the debate?
Yes, I think it was 2010, the war washed away. And it was rebuilt. So maybe we need another wet year.
Okay, councillors, we have 2 recommendations there. All those in favour? Unanimous. Okay, we are now on to 11.4, phase 3. It is council managed Crown Land Plan of Management, Richmond Park and Stockwell Gardens for adoption. Okay, moved by councillor Hayes.
Started the report.
Seconder. Oh, councillor Packer, thank you. Councillor Hayes.
Well, look, I've already spoken on this, so what I said before, basically.
Okay. Any other speakers?
Well, I've spoken on it before. I think it should be deferred. I don't think it's necessary to make the decision now. And I'd really like the opportunity to look at that legislation. I'm not satisfied with the interpretation that's been put on it by those that advise us it's in fact correct. I'll just say anything more.
Thank you. Councillor Sheldon.
I would support Councillor Inglis on that, but I would also seek a legal opinion on it because the last thing I want now is to see us getting into an environment court. I prefer to spend a small amount of money now getting a legal opinion on it, to make sure that everything is kosher, all the boxes and everything.
Councillor Harvey.
I just wanted to double check. Councillor Hayes alluded to that if we adopt this and it changes, but the NEC doesn't end up going there, it's not going to create much of an issue with the park having that portion be rezoned. Is there any cost to own it at all? And there was a second point. We'll touch on it.
No, so essentially it goes to the planning panel. They either approve it or they don't. So no, there'll be no cost incurred, like essentially what the council would probably apply again. So this would have to happen, but all it means is that this would need to come back to council, but in order for that DA to proceed, and we'll get the directors to correct me if I'm wrong, it needs to be categorised now, so the land is correct for the development application. So we're saying that is the right category for the use of the land. That all goes hand in hand. I'd be extremely concerned if this was referred to after the DA when the right categories have not been given to the Crown managed land. Crown is completely happy with our process we've gone through, and they are happy for us to approve this.
Question of clarification.
Clarification actually on what Councillor Hardwick said. If we actually adopt it, does that make the swings and the playground in there still suitable for that category if it doesn't go ahead, or do we have to spend money recategorising it?
No, the swings in the playground, they have no impact on classification or the change of classification.
If it didn't eventuate?
But the state could still stand it as general use.
Yeah, because it hasn't been categorised as like wetland, bushland or anything that's clearly adverse to its intended future use. So the whole point of the pond is to categorise the land for its intended future use.
Councillor,
Just a point of clarification, is there any reason why we couldn't adopt this now as per the recommendation and then get the advice that councillor Inglis and Sheldon are seeking put to the extraordinary that deals with the and if it is of an issue, we can then maybe revisit the motion we've passed.
gentlemen.
I'm just trying to check any sort of legislation.
There wouldn't be council allowed, but to make it perfectly clear, we've already got a letter from Cromwell saying there's no problem with you, there's nothing unlawful here today. For you to adopt the plan of management. That's when it's signed off on the planning. So we can get the legal advice, but the legal advice you've got. Letter from Cromwell.
That doesn't deal with the conflict
There is no
situation.
conflict.
That's a separate issue.
That's to do with the DA.
That's the DA.
This is a plan of management. So you've got the, if you want a lawful decision with council, you've got it, you've got the letter from Crown.
No, councillors?
It's putting us as councillors in an incredibly difficult position because the reality is that, and I'm sure other councillors have been approached and contacted and had phone calls from residents within the local community as well, who've expressed a concern that if it's so easy to just change, they don't want to lose, or they don't want council to come back later and go, oh, we want a bit more, and then we just want to do this. And it all comes down to the fact that everything that we're doing, as I said earlier, is reaction. We're reacting to what's happening. We haven't strategically planned out and thought how we're developing this and how we're growing it. We didn't strategically think of the long-term impact on the residents and the businesses. And I refer to the business, the Union Home across the road, who has expressed great concerns of the impact on the business. So my concern is that this is a reactionary thing that we're doing here. And I think that as a council, we need to be far more strategic and we need to be far more forward thinking, not just react every time something is coming. It's councillor's answer.
Councillor Hayes, would you like to close the debate?
Thank you. This is the next step in pushing this project along. It has to be done. You know, I hope that, and it won't change anything much in the park at the moment, but for this project to go forward, this needs to be done. And if we want to make sure that all our ducks are lined up, this needs to be done with the DA. So hopefully gets through.
Thank you, councillors. We've got one recommendation there. All those in favour? Hayes, Larker. Eckhart. Harvey. Brits. Against. Sheldon. Inglis. Thank you, councillor.
Thank you, Dave. Madam Mayor, I move that we go back to the order of the agenda. 21.
Do we have movers and seconder? Councillor Sheldon, all those in favour? Yes, ma'am. You're welcome to stay. I know it's fun. Councillors, thank you very much for those respectful debates. I really appreciate it. Yep.
Yeah, we can have
Okay, now to the mayoral minute. Ladies and councillors, 7.1 is the mayoral minute. That was noting the recent media release regarding Transgrid Humelink project and the associated host council's push for community benefit payment payments for anyone involved in transmission lines in our area. And just very quickly, if I can just speak of three things. Congratulations to Michael McCormack for his election to the federal representative to Riverina, which now incorporates Snowy Valleys Council. And at the same time, congratulations to Crystal McBain for her win over Eden Monero. We know she'll do a great job there because she did a great job for us here. And congratulations to Susan Lee, who neighbours us, and Farah now become the leader of the Liberal Party. Second thing I'd like to talk about is the success of Big Brothers Big Sisters bailouts, Councillor Works and Councillor Harwood. We were locked up in the Gundagai jail for very worthwhile cause for an organisation in town which supports youth in the Snowy Valleys region. Over $30,000 was a, so it was quite an experience.
It's a pity they didn't throw away the key.
Yeah, there were many of those who put. Anyway, some people had to do lots of push-ups, but anyway.
People asking how much is in there.
And this one is a little bit indulgent, but it was very flattering to me that I had a young person in their 20s ring to say they were very concerned about the New South Wales government improving camping in New South Wales public park consultation. There's a survey going around, and his point was that 62% of the Snowy Valleys Council is in a national park or state forest, and he would like to make sure the survey is in the council newsletter and on social media posts, so it gets lots of traction. Thank you, councillors. Okay, notion of rescission. I'm sorry. Oh, yes. I beg your pardon, there was one more thing. Thank you. I do have a letter of thanks and congratulations to the Falling Leaf Festival. That was just a fantastic festival. Great music, well organised, great street parade. Can I just say, where was the Snowy Valleys street parade? What do you call them? Float. I think we should start organising that next year. But yeah, congratulations to all of you. Fantastic. We can have a photo of this flag. Oh, I was thinking photo.
Yeah. Bring out your photo.
So, number 8, notion of rescission. We have none.
Mayor, I did put in a notice of motion that was a little bit late, but I just wanted to highlight it for the next meeting. And it's regarding the shot hole borer, and I want to, the motion is that council assess the risk of the SPC environment of the shot hole borer, Euwallacea fornicatus, infect trees on Australia's east coast. Now, this is a major concern. What it's done to Kings Park in Western Australia is frightful.
Yeah.
And we've seen the damage that the elm leaf beetle causes.
I totally agree, and Softwood's working group are very much aware of it too. So because we're running out of time, Councillor Hazel, I'll take that as a motion for
The next meeting.
It'll go to the next. So thank you for that. I think that's really important. Urgent business without notice. Councillor Larkin.
Madam Mayor, look, I'm concerned and I want to raise a matter in relation to the airport committee and the funding deeds that this council was involved in for the $3.85 million hangar at the airport that was facilitated through a grant by the Softwood Working Group, which I was of the belief was on behalf of the Rural Fire Service. Now, I came into,
So Councillor Larner, it's actually not on the paper, so we're not going to accept that as an urgent business without notice, but having been to the aerodrome committee with you this week, I can understand where you're coming from.
well, Madam Mayor,
And we
I'd
would
suggest
like
that it
to
is urgent
bring that
because
to the next.
a minister of the Crown, in my view, has been potentially misled, leading to the allocation of $3.85 million of funding. That surely would constitute a breach of the Local Government Act. And as such, I think it really is prudent upon the council to make representations urgently to the minister in relation to that, especially as it relates to a DA.
Thank you, councillor Larder. You've made your point and I take it on notice and I agree that should go to the next one.
Is that they week also being misled, Madam Mayor?
It needs to come to a report. Yeah. And prior to that, it's actually coming to the aerodrome committee so that all the facts are on the table. It's not on the papers now.
Well, just one simple question. Is anything, can we have all documentation paper?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So thank you for bringing it up, councillor Larder.
Was it?
Okay, governance and finance reports, 10.1.
I just want to make a point about that.
We'll go to the next point. Thanks, councillor.
Madam Mayor, we can't just have a situation where
Councillor Larder.
ministers of the Crown are being misled. We
It's
can't.
ruled not an urgent.
By yourself? Has it been
Yes.
voted on?
As a mayor, yes. Yeah. So 10.1, council resolutions action report, May 25. One recommendation there. Councillor Thompson. Councillor Hardwick. Councillor Thompson.
No, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that, as we look through it, people need to understand that these reports are actually available on the website as well, or within the council portal, so we can go back and check at any time. So it just appears that some of them are going back a significant amount of time and they're still in progress. And we just need to keep making sure that we update ourselves and be informed and look at the motions and look at the resolutions and look at how they're being progressed. But there's nothing in this actual report at the moment that I was going to discuss.
Any other discussions, councillors? No closing debate, okay. All those in favour? Councillor Larder?
I'm still flabbergasted that we can congratulate people, but we can't discuss urgent business where people have been misled.
Councillor Larder, are you
And
voting for or
$3.85 million
against?
has been
For or against?
allocated. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Are
It
you
has to be
for
urgent.
or- Are you for or against?
I'm neither.
So that's against.
I'm ropeable.
So he's abstaining, so that's.
It's
against.
unbelievable.
Okay, 10.2, de-amalgamation update. That the recommendation to note the report, councillor Sheldon. Seconder. Councillor. I thought councillor Sheldon we were putting in a point two.
No, I've got something to add when I'm in chamber.
So we're only moving with the having the report.
Oh, no, Joe, I've got to be asked.
You can do that before you actually move it.
Oh,
So
So
in
councillor-
moving it, you add your.
Yeah, so councillor Sheldon.
moving it, look, we get this every month for months now and nothing happens. So may I add something to, and it's taking up valuable time. Note the report, when we go to the recommendation, note the report on the de-amalgamation update as of May 25. May we add, with the addition that council only receive such a report when required,
Point two.
When something happens.
when something happens,
So, as, through you, Madam Mayor, as a
or
suggestion,
when there are progress
councillor
updates.
Sheldon, should we say only provide future monthly updates when there are progress update?
Yes. I'll get there.
So sorry, Kristen, I think that's been moved by councillor Sheldon and seconded by councillor Tom. I'm happy with the inclusion of that one. Okay, councillors, we have two recommendations in front of us. All those in favour? Unanimous. 10.3 revised community strategic plan towards 2042 for endorsement. We have 4 recommendations there. Councillor Thompson. Councillor Sheldon. Councillor Thompson.
I would really like to thank and I know it was only one person who put the submission in, but it was a detailed submission. It was a very well thought out submission, and I think that the contribution that they've made in the way that staff incorporated it and responded to their queries is really what public exhibition periods are all about. And if we can encourage more people to do that in the future, then that's how we try and engage our community to have participation and an input into the documents that we're basing on our future or basing our future on. So, okay. Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Sheldon.
My question is for the general manager, just to get a comment from her. The draft community strategic plan, because it's 2042, is it a living document or is it set in concrete?
Through you, Madam Leader, Councillor Sheldon. So usually after the election of the new council, that's when a comprehensive review is undertaken. So essentially, at least, it should be updated every.
Just a comment on that. If it's updated every 4 years, surely we can do more as a council to engage the 15,000 residents of Stony Valleys to have one submission on a document that's in the last 4 years. Even though it was high quality, I think we can do better engagement.
Just to clarify, so this engagement was only from the public exhibition period. Council undertook extensive consultation on the input of the plan. I think we had over 200 people participate from the community. We had workshops, we had online surveys. So this is just from purely the draft text that was put together, not the lead up to the document.
Trying to figure out what it's like.
Clarification question.
No, I just wanted, clarification and for councillor Hardwick. That I was involved and so was councillor Thompson in some of the forums. They went round to every community and there was extensive public consultation and forums brought forward on this before it was developed.
Clarify my question, if I may. It's as a business owner, when people come to me to create something creative, and I send it back, usually they come back 500 times for operations. So it's surprising that we have engaged so many people, but that we tick so many boxes, that we have this broader engagement, and that everyone's happy with that. It's all I just want to make sure that people are double checking up on what is going into the policies and being happy also before we adopt. That's it.
Probably just in response to councillor Hardwick's is that this is the exhibition period and we need to, that's why when I move things going out on public exhibition that you encourage as many people as possible, and as council, if we can all encourage people to go on and look at that. But it's not physically possible to reply and ask every one of those 200 respondents to either surveys or turn up to pop-up sessions or do the workshops with us to send it out. They would all see that it's on public exhibition. It's about genuine engagement, which is why last month I think it was that we adopted our engagement strategies and things. It's part of our role is to encourage more people to read those documents and make the submissions. I have to be honest, I was quite impressed to see that one of them released done it in great detail.
Thank you, councillor Thompson. We have 4 recommendations there, councillors. All those in favour? Unanimous. And 4 councillors, and they're all fees for 25-26. Moved by councillor Hayes, seconded by councillor Packard. Councillor Hayes.
Thank you. Look, it's a very small amount that councillors get paid, and I don't think people realise how poorly paid a position it is to be constantly at everyone's beck and call, and some of it's good, some of it's not so good. This would be about a $6,000 increase in a $91 million budget. It's not going to break the bank, but it also means that the councillors coming after us, so for the next election, they won't be behind the 8 ball. I think it's very important that we take these increases. And as I said to people earlier, a lot of people use this to put them back in. So I'm happy to move those, and hopefully at the next election we'll get some more people in. Eventually, the government will agree that councillors are paid a proper amount of money, because some people work very, very hard, and it's a very small amount of money.
Thank you. Councillor Packard.
Yeah, although it says increase, realistically, it's only just keeping pace with inflation. So in terms of purchasing power or spending power, or, although the dollar value is going up, I think it is important to note that it really isn't. It's just, treading water.
Councillors, any other comments? Discussion? You don't want to close the debate?
No.
Councillor, all those in favour? Unanimous. Yes, we know it's out of the room. So it's unanimous for the people. Okay, 10.5, councillor and community directors to the Hine Community Trust. There are 2 recommendations there, moved by councillor Johnson.
I'd like to actually move it with a point 3.
So I think it's, yes.
Yeah, so if I could move 10.5, there are the two current recommendations. I'd like to add a third point, please, where it says, we request that the Hine Community Trust review its deed to remove the need for council to approve membership on that.
That's councillor Thompson's recommendation. Do I have a seconder? Or all
Sorry.
those?
Sorry, could you just read that again? I didn't hear it properly.
Sorry, I'll try and speak into the microphone.
Thank you.
Request that the Hine Community Trust review its deed to remove the need for council to approve membership on the trust.
Of community members, because there's a council position on the trust. So we obviously need to approve the council person on the trust. But
Of community members. If
Members.
is there 2? Thank you. Thank you, councillor Packard, for clarifying.
Councillor Packard, do you want to second that?
I'll second that, yeah.
And councillors, we now have 3 recommendations there. Any discussion?
I'll just, for members of the community who may not actually paper and will be aware of what we're talking about. The Hine Community Trust is a Tumbarumba-based trust, so the finances and the funding and the grants are only available within the Tumbarumba community. And previously, before the merger, I'm assuming that the Tumbarumba Council had a role to play in the allocation of or the appointment of some of those community members. It seems a little bit ingenuous that with it now being Snowy Valleys, even though all members of the trust are from the Tumbarumba community, that it doesn't need to be ratified by Snowy Valleys Council. And that trust and that community is better suited to be appointing its members, and that way Snowy Valleys can appoint the council or representative who also has to come from Tumbarumba. So that's why we've said it's not really council's role to be vetting the Tumbarumba community members for a trust that's not a council trust.
Any other councillors' discussion? If not, I'll put that. The 3 recommendations. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. 10.6, statements of investments May 2025. Moved by councillor Sheldon. Yes, or
Oh, this is where I ask a question. through the general manager to chief financial officer. For the benefit of those listening or watching the video, could you please explain the increase?
That will be within it. Yeah, would you like to move?
Yes.
So council moved by councillor Sheldon, seconded by councillor Hartley. Councillor Sheldon. would you like to start with
Yes,
that?
through the general manager, or the Madam Mayor, I would like to ask Chief Financial Officer to explain the increase in those investments, where that money or the finances come from, revenue came from, please.
So we have had a deposit or cash receipt during April from Bushfire Local Economic Recovery Package, which is aerodrome improvements, that's 5.6 million. And that will be all considered as the restricted balance for the financial statements purposes.
Any other questions? Councillor Sheldon, happy?
Yes.
Okay, councillors, I've put the statements of investments, all those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. 10.7, quarterly budget review. We have 2 points, 2 recommendations there. So if we have a mover of councillor Sheldon, seconded by councillor Thompson, councillor Sheldon.
Just think it highlights the need for council to be extremely financially prudent as we move forward, because we are heading along a very tight budget line.
Madam Mayor, and I know that there's microphones are sensitive. I think
They can pull the meeting. We might just pull the meeting.
I do apologise for that.
3 months.
Okay,
3 months.
3 months gone,
and it's 12 months if you do on the things.
the laptop, oh, he'll get me, man.
No, it's a docking salary.
It's okay.
Yes, you can like the stopping while we can. We pause the meeting. I'll just talk.
Councillor
Okay.
Sheldon can claim as I talk.
Okay. I'm sure anyone watching,
Seeing work.
you can see the action, councillor Packer.
He's still laughing.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The points that I would like to raise in relation to the financial reports is that when you go in and it looks like we've lost money in some areas and we've gained money in other areas, and I know that it was specifically asked, which is why we now have this very extensive report, to put some background as to how those things have come about. And a couple of areas that we need to point out is that the removal of the Riverglade caravan park and the amount of money, I think it's $2.2 million that is now taken out of our assets because of reflections. But the other area where we have actually increased some of our funding and our income and our expenditure is not, our budgeted expenditure and our actual expenditure are not the same. But in some of those instances, because we've actually not undertaking projects that we had funded in our budget. So people need to clearly understand that it's not just black and white of what you see on the page. They really do need to go in and have a look at the financial reports and understand why there are those changes to the financials. But I do share the sentiment of Councillor Sheldon. We are still in extremely difficult and dire financial position.
But in saying that, at the end of this last quarter, I just want to really congratulate the staff that are really must be doing it tight, to all the staff that are stepping up to make this happen. Congratulations for that. Thank you. Councillor Inglis.
I note that referred to by councillor Thompson, the shift in the operating position is primarily attributed to 2.2 million, one component, net loss on the disposal of Riverglade caravan park assets. What assets were they?
To you, councillor, CFO or Director of Infrastructure?
For you, Madam Mayor, the assets were the amenities block, the cottage, they are listed in the funds report? No, okay, so, yeah, it was the amenities block, the cottage, the infrastructure, some of the infrastructure, above ground infrastructure that have now been passed on to Reflection.
Well, two things about that. One, I'd like to see a breakdown, but that's not
Yeah.
too difficult. And the other is the cottage is still partly on our land.
It is.
So why should we be writing that off?
I think that's been apportioned in terms of the write-off, but we'll give you the breakdown.
All right, well, let's not waste time on it now. I'd like to have a look at it because I'm familiar with all those.
We have a detailed breakdown, I believe, of that.
Thank you.
Any other discussion, council? Oh, councillor Packer, beg your pardon.
I just think it's worth noting that at the regional and rural issues conference that I went to last week, or we went to last week, pretty much all rural councils are facing the same sort of financial stress that we are. It's not that doesn't excuse or sort of mean that we need to take our eye off the ball, but we're far from alone. It was the common thread right throughout was that since the FAGS grants have been pulled back, and with rate pegging, all rural councils, not so much city councils, but all rural councils are facing severe financial constraint. And a lot of it's to do with the treatment of the capital assets. But there does seem to be some movement in the thinking around that, and particularly around Australian accounting standards on depreciation. So, hopefully there may be a systemic fix to some of these issues at some time in the future.
People should be aware that FAGS grant are at 0.5%, and in the recent local federal election, there was a big push by Office of Local Government to get them back to 1%.
There was a common theme by just about everybody that the FAGS grants are causing huge, huge pain.
Any other? Okay, councillors, I put those two recommendations. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Now move to 11.2, Visitors Information Hub on page 60. Thank you, councillor Thompson. Second by councillor Thompson.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm really happy to see this report coming up. I think it's going to be a quick win situation. Just to confirm to everybody in the Tumbarumba or the former Tumbarumba Council area that the current centre will remain as is in Tumbarumba. This is not going to have any negative impact, but what it does is it does provide that opportunity for other centres to be able to be represented and hand out the flyers that are supplied by council. And most people probably won't go through and read the detail or even look at the expression of interest that goes behind this. But council will be providing a level of support and training for these people. We will be providing those flyers, the maps, the information, and also ongoing levels of support if it's required. And there's no contract, there's nothing that says that these people have to be open X number of days a week. It is just an opportunity for Snowy Valleys Council to get more information out, provide more information for tourism. And I believe that there's even an expression of interest from the current Tumut Region Visitor Centre, which will also back on well to what we have here. So it's a win-win-win situation. And, congratulations to Snowy Valleys for, looking outside that square.
Any other comments or discussion, councillor? Councillor Hayes.
It's wonderful to see that we're saving a bit of money. And often we've been asked with the evacuation centre, where will the money come from? Here's one place.
Thank you. No other discussion? councillors, those 4 recommendations, all those in favour? Sorry, see the lack of hand.
That's right, with the lack of hands.
Okay, so we have councillor Thompson. Councillor Packard. Councillor Hayes. Councillor Lata. Councillor Inglis. Councillor Harvey. Councillor Wood. Councillor Thompson. Councillor Han. And against Councillor Shilton. Thank you. Okay, we'll now move to 11.5 Crown Land Transfer Request, Paddy's River Flats Reserve. JD.
Move that.
Moved by councillor Packard. Seconded by councillor Hardy. Councillor Packard.
This just seems like a very sensible thing to do. It just simplifies life. That's all I need to say.
Thank you. And just a request on this, there is I believe, a walking path from this area to the Paddy's River Falls. I just want to make sure that in touch. Any other comment? Okay, councillors, we have 2 recommendations there. All those in favour? Unanimous. 11.6. Go Cup Fire Shed Draft Heads of Agreement. There's 5 recommendations there. Councillor Mover. Councillor Lata, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Councillor Lata. Any other comments?
Can I just seek a clarification just for general community to understand? At this point, it has no cost associated with what it's going to be. Through you, Madam Mayor, or through the General Manager, can we just have a clarification of what the cost to council could be?
So through you, Madam Mayor, councillor Thompson, council will essentially enter into a peppercorn lease with the landowner. And in terms of the construction of this shed, that will be covered by us.
So no real
So
cost.
no material.
Councillors, no more discussion? All those in favour? Unanimous. No, sorry. Mr. Gann. You, councillor Shirk?
No, I'm against.
Right, sorry.
Been very
Sorry?
I can't see if your hands up and down because.
Not being negative, I just can't see the point in the whole exercise. Really, Kelly Brady.
Where the job is. Well, Paul Christian's got another job today.
Where's the hummus?
The homeless.
Thomas has got.
Just can't see the front.
So we've got councillor Thompson. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, and we'll move on to 11.7, Tumbarumba Caravan Park Business Plan and Master Plan. We have 2 recommendations there. Better mover, councillor Inglis. Councillor Works. Seconded by councillor Thompson. Councillor Works.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that it would be a good idea to make sure that Crown Lands can't. Obviously, we do have a business plan. Master plan for Humber Caravan Park. And so it might be in future if Crown Land decides to reclaim that caravan park, done with Chin Caravan Park. So something to be considered, I think, by council. They're aware we did have an agreement to compensate for any loss in property or loss of assets, well, like the $2.2 million that was lost in books depreciation. So something similar to that here, but it looks like the master plan and the business plan are good.
In saying that we don't have the money to do it, it's just a plan. Go on the average, it's.
Firstly, under the Crown Lands Act, we're not entitled to compensation. Specifically, it says so. So it doesn't matter what we do, we won't get compensated. I had 3 questions. Who commissioned the report, why, and how much did it cost?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the cost of the report is identified in the financial implications.
Well, I missed that, I'm sorry, can you just tell me?
Yeah. So if you go to page,
This how much is
25,000.
Right.
yeah.
All right, that answers that
Yeah,
question.
820.
Bearing in mind that the Crown land and any surplus doesn't go to council, it goes into either the caravan park or other Crown land. Why did we do this?
One of the reasons we did this was we were asked to do it by Crown Lands. So it was a specific request. They asked us to do a plan of management for them and a business plan. And the reason I guess they wanted us to do that was to show as Crown Land managers that we had a vision and that we had an ability to support that vision with business plan.
Did they say that in writing? Well, they would.
Not specifically, they said you need to provide us a business plan by a certain date. And we've got that in writing, and I'm happy to share with you those.
They chased us.
I'd like to have a look. I mean, 25 grand's a lot of money.
And you have none.
And why do we spend so much? I could have done the business plan.
Yeah.
This is how much we're getting. This is how much it's costing. And this is how we'd like to grow the business. The 90-page report.
Yeah, I think.
They're not paying for it, I imagine.
No, they're not. But I think they wanted an undertaking from us that we have a vision, we're looking after it. And I believe, just in my opinion, that it does sort of future-proof us against them who have said that they could take the caravan park. Well, having a master plan and a business plan in place and doing what they've asked of us gives us some assurance that we can hold on to that caravan park going forward. And
Why do we want to hold on to it? I mean,
Haven't they said?
only I suppose it promotes the community to some extent.
yeah, look, it makes money, and as you know, councillor, as the money is returned, has to be returned back into Crown Lands, it has to be returned potentially into that caravan park, which was a logical place where the revenue received would go back into that caravan park and hopefully go towards implementing the master plan. And that would come from the revenue that we make from the caravan park.
We've had a point of order, which is correct. Councillor Thompson's moved to go into committee.
Oh, sorry.
We've got a second now.
Sorry?
Councillor Sheldon, all those in favour? Unanimous.
I'm against. I am
And
too.
you're against. Okay, 2 against. You don't want to go into committee? Okay, so we've got Hayes, Larter, Woods against.
To go into maybe with the.
Yeah. And you.
May I finish?
Well, we've just got to get you into committee.
Oh, I'm
All
sorry.
those in favour? Against, right, okay, go councillor.
Well, what concerns me is it's obviously doing very poorly when you analyse the figures. Doesn't seem to be improving. And the author says there are notable inconsistencies in expenses reporting. For example, insurance costs are recorded only in the last 2 years of the 5-year period, which could distort year-to-year expense comparisons. Are we doing anything to meet those criticisms? If I could use that word.
Through you, Madam Mayor, yeah, councillor English, yes, we are, and so the reason that reporting has been not accurate is that there was a changeover of the management of that caravan park 2 years ago. It was run by another agent, if you like, of council, so we've only retained the control of that caravan park in the last 2 years. It's only come back to us, so there wasn't good record keeping done by the previous licensee of that caravan park for many, many years. It's the same licensee who had that caravan park as well. And so we hope now that we've got better control over the revenue and expenditure of the caravan park, I'm not sure what board will be correct.
One final question, if I may. I assume we collect the sort of income from internal revenue percentage of the income of the park. Any income to council? Do we charge?
Internal charges, yes.
Yes, there are, yeah. But the manager we've got in there at the moment is not an employee of council. It's not, they're not part of that, but there are other costs that are returned to council for the maintenance we do. So we do all the mowing up there and we do all the general maintenance of the caravan, which is an internal cost to council.
But there's no internal revenue charge. As there are.
Is it charged back to council? No.
Thank you.
Councillor Sheldon.
I think this Batlow Caravan Park and what we've witnessed with Riverglade and the visitor information hubs really emphasises the need for a concise visitor economy strategy. Because at the moment, all it is a shotgun and we're hoping to pick up things all the way through, spend money here, spend money there, instead of a real strategy that we can collect data, have reliable data, income. We actually know where we're going at the moment. It's all over the shop. And I think this just explains it all.
Councillor Thompson.
Madam Mayor, I think just to clarify too that the $25,000 wasn't only, we had the author of the report do a presentation at a workshop of council where we went through, he walked us through the different stages and what was being looked at. We need to understand that this was at the direction of Crown Lands, understanding that they took the Riverglade Caravan Park because they didn't believe that council was doing the best job with that facility, fairly or not. The other thing that needs to be pointed out is that just because the plan has been done and going forward, even the design, it does not mean that we have the funding to undertake. So there needs to be that realisation that there is no expectation that this is going to be completed or undertaken within the short term. The other point is that it's interesting to note that during the presentation, one of the high-risk flood areas is where they want to move some of the buildings to. So we just need to be quite mindful of not sending mixed messages of council imposes one set of standards on developers, but who has the opportunity to look at other ones. I'm quite happy to have plans and the business plans done. It gives us a starting point. And I agree with Councillor Sheldon that we need to be looking more towards how do we make each of the Caravan Park and the Tumbarumba Caravan Park, because that one, Adlong is looking after itself with that. But we need to provide a far better united front on the accommodation that we're providing. The report itself, the workshop and the presentation was excellent and filled in a lot of the gaps that we could not actually.
I move it to move out of committee, seconded by Councillor Sheldon. All those in favour? Unanimous. Which brings it back. Originally by Councillor Works. Councillor, Councillor, you want to close debate?
Just like to say that everyone wants to, very interesting to listen to, and but yeah, we do need a master plan. Which I said about tourism, I think having the tourist information hubs is the start on the right road, and having a master plan for these assets that we're managing is critical and important for the site.
Thanks, Councillor. Okay, so we have the two recommendations there. All those in favour? That's a hand of it. Sorry.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor, I learnt lessons off Councillor Hayes.
Except I could think it.
Good one.
11.8, section 7, 11, development contributions allocated to projects. So there's
I'll move
1,
those.
2, 3, 4 recommendations moved by councillor Hayes.
Noting
seconded-
that there's nothing in it.
Seconded by councillor Sheldon.
Again.
Councillor Hayes, would you like to make a comment, discussion? Debate?
No.
Okay. No other discussion? All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Moving on to the minutes of committee meetings, we're up to page 118. 12.1, minutes of the Brungle Floodplain Risk Management Committee, the 8th of April 2025. There are 2 recommendations there. Thank you, councillor Thompson, seconded by councillor Hardwick. All those in favour? I'm sorry, did you want to say anything?
No, it's just it's important that we get this one space now. And this is the start.
Thank you. Which brings us to 12.2. Tumut Floodplain Risk Management Committee, the 8th of April 2025. Once again, there's 2 recommendations to be moved by councillor Works, seconded by councillor Hayes. Councillor Hayes, Works, did you want to say anything?
Oh, just a question. The Department of Climate Change, Energy, Environment and Water has a Tumut reference group that's going to meet on Tuesday, the 20th of May. Do we have a council representative? I think?
Acting General Manager, do you have anything?
No, well, I can find out.
If so, and we have been invited, is it possible for me to be considered to go, or do you, as a staff member, or?
It'd be great for council to know what was going on.
I think so, given that the river is pretty important.
Yeah, thank you. And you can ask a question, Mr. Wilton, seeing quite what I now understand is something that I asked to the for council was to get the LNP done. Would you like to explain how this is one part of it?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. The LEP is currently on books for review. One of the considerations that we had is that we operate under 2 separate LEPs within the Shire. About almost 2 years ago now, we put on hold a lot of the strategies associated with the combining of the 2, the Tuggerah and the Tumut LEP, depending on the merger process. There was no point in combining 2 LEPs into one and separate them due to cost. We are undertaking a lot of underpinning work at the moment, undertaking a lot of constraints mapping associated with not only the Tumut, but also Tuggerah Brungle flood study. So we're taking on the Avalon flood study now too. Council staff are also actively engaged in updating a lot of our bushfire mapping as well, which all of that will feed into underpinning strategies, which will update our area.
Very great, thank you. Any other discussions? So, I put forward those 2 recommendations. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Now to 12.3 minutes for the council committee. So 2 recommendations there, moved by councillor Works, seconded by councillor Hardwick. Councillor,
It was a good meeting. It was the one that we held before we had the week. So it was very productive, and we made lots of helmets out of plastic buckets, and organised a few things for the youth week event that we had on Saturday. So yeah, and we re-elected Ayana as the chairperson, and Steve here, Craig Foster, who resigned in his position on appendix. So yeah, that's what happened in the meeting.
councillor Hardwick.
I just want to congratulate the youth committee on the youth week events that were held in the Snowy Valleys. Obviously, there was a council meeting between those events and now, which I was unable to attend, but I just want to make sure that it's on the books that I have. So congratulations.
It did look like you both did have a good time.
Yes. Yeah. Some good photos.
Okay, councillors, two recommendations there, all those in favour? So councillors, it comes to confidential, where councillors participate in meetings remotely by audio visual link. They continue to be obliged to protect any confidential information considered at the meeting where meetings are closed to public under section 10A of the Local Government Act 1983. The councillors should ensure that they participate in the meeting in a location where it cannot be seen or heard by anyone else. Thank you, councillor Packer.
Before we go into confidential, we are 13.1 is an Aboriginal Lands Claim Notification Council. And it says it's a confidential report to council under the Local Government Act as it relates to information concerning the nature and location of a place or an Aboriginal significance on community land. And council considers that discussion of the matter in an open meeting would be on balance contrary to the public interest. Well, it doesn't. It identifies that there are land claims, but it doesn't say where they are. There is a map. It doesn't show anything on the map because there are significant amounts of it. It doesn't mention it. And I've been told that the reason for confidentiality is not exactly what's written there. Could I ask the General Manager to explain why this is in confidential?
Councillor Hayes, Councillor Hayes is correct, so section 1030H does state, which is read. There is a confidential attachment to the report. It's the status update of all the land claims, and it does list the lot and BP numbers, which are easily identifiable.
Exactly, and so they could remain confidential, but the report has to be confidential because
it does mention sites on the map, so it does identify those.
there's the size of there's 1,000 sites and the map's the size of the postage stamp.
Councillor Hayes, I think the General Manager's taking your point. This is perfect time. Can we?
I thought that I had heard that it's not a council decision, it's a government decision. Is that correct?
It is, and in addition, from my understanding is that Crown Lands have also requested that this remain confidential, and I think the reason that on 829.
Okay, I just.
No, thank you.
We promise to be transparent and we don't want to be seen that it's council hiding something away in confidential, but it's not us at all.
Okay, so you're happy to move us into confidential?
I am.
Seconded by.
Well, I was going to move that we, as we did with every other report, why do we, it should be moved into open, and anything that is confidential should be, remain confidential, but the bulk of what needs to be discussed should be discussed in open council, in my opinion.
Thank you, councillor. So councillor Hayes has moved to go into confidential. Got a seconder, councillor Hardwick. All those in favour? Is that a yes or no, councillor?
I'm making up my mind.
No, I'm voting against it.
You're against it? Okay, so we've got councillor Larter, councillor England, councillor Sheldon are against going into confidential.
Yes.
Just a point of order, should we not vote on whether it should remain in open council or?
Yeah,
I think
we're voting, should we go into confidential or not?
I think the thing is.
And but we've got 3 against going into confidential.
But can't parts of it remain in confidential and the bulk of it to be discussed in open
It would
council?
have to be, like, parts of the confidential have to be redacted, we should have to have another meeting.
We have to receive approval from the department beforehand, which we haven't done. And we won't get.
Okay, so we're going into confidential now,
Well,
and I
well,
think
should
we can
we
turn the
defer?
camera off.
Anyway, I've moved to go into confidential on the understanding that the government says this must be in confidential, correct?
Seek clarification.
Government says
It's just correct.
Yeah, so they're
Page
requesting not
120.
to have between the confidential.
Yes.
So I just to help Kristen out here, councillor Lada, councillor Inglis and councillor Sheldon voted against going to. Thank you, and now we can move into.